One of my regular Facebook followers and regular viewers of this channel asked me to do a video discussing the things a black man can do to keep his head up during hard times. Now, this is a subject I can discuss in depth because this is something I'm going through right now. I have been out of work for 7 going on 8 years, and I've been trying to do my best during this time of long-term unemployment. And in that long-term unemployment, I've learned to do two things that allow me to keep my head up. One of the things that I've learned to do is to trust in God. And in my relationship with God, I understand that He will facilitate what I need if I trust in Him and I go out here and make the best effort. I understand that faith without works is dead, and I have to make an effort in order for God to facilitate and meet the needs and help me do what I need to do. So that's one of the core things that helps me keep my head up during these long, hard times is a rock solid relationship with God. That's one of the core things. The second thing that helps me keep my head up during hard times is focusing on what I want to do. And what I want to do with my life really doesn't have anything to do with any of the jobs that I do. A lot of times I focus on these goals even if I'm unemployed or even when I'm employed. And that goal that I've had since I was 9 years old, the first one I had was to go out and write a book. And I've been working on that again since I was about 16 years old. I was trying to write books, and I failed a lot during those times until I got into my late 20s. That's when I really started to become serious about writing. And around 97, 98, I went out and tried submitting my first book, Changing Soul to publishers, and they turned it down. I got a lot of rejections. And during that time, while I was writing that one, submitting that one, I was working on ISIS, and I went out and I took after I'd finished working at AmeriCorps Vista at Strive, and I ran into a setback there because I thought I was going to get that job at that organization. But when the vice president invited me to have lunch with him, he told me he had no place for me in his organization. And after that, I had to wind up, after dealing with that setback, working on the goal I wanted to pursue, which was, again, writing this book and getting it published. What I did was I had about $600 left in the bank at the time, and I took a risk on myself. And what I did when I took that risk was I took my money and I went to a print-on-demand company, and I took that $200 and I published the first ISIS back in 2002. So this was the first book that I ever published, and this was what I focused on, what I wanted to do, even though I did not have a job, and the company that I was working at, Strive, had promised me job placement assistance, and they didn't give me job placement assistance, and I was stuck. And I said, I'm still going to go out here and try to and make this happen, because I said I have this money, I have the resources, and even though I don't have a lot of money, I'm going to go out and get this on the market. And that's what I did. And that publishing ISIS was the thing that really helped me keep my head up during some really, really hard times. Because as I focused on that book, it helped me to deal with one of the worst periods of my life. Because in 2002, I finally got another job at this law firm, and the whole thing just fell apart in 2 weeks, and I got fired. And then I went into this really deep depression, and it was a really bad period for me from about 2002, late 2002 to 2003. It was a very miserable period because I kept blaming myself for losing this law firm job. But when I look back at it, today, it was clear to me that these guys really were never serious about hiring me in the first place. And because when I look at their actions today through, perspective, the lens of perspective, their actions pretty much showed me that they weren't interested in me from day one. Because when I went to the interview for that job, these guys were sitting here talking about hiring someone else. And then 90 days later, after I left for the interview, and I had pretty much written it off, they send me an email asking me if I want another job as a receptionist. And I took the job as a receptionist because I really needed the money, but it was the wrong move. And that was one of the hard lessons that I learned from that situation. However, as I was in that, after that whole troubled situation, I just went back to writing, and I focused on another book I wanted to publish, and that was not this was this book right here, the Cassandra Cookbook. This was a book that I that kept helped allowed me to stay motivated and focused, and allowed me to keep my head up. This was a book that really meant a lot to me because it was a book that helped me get writing this book helped me get through some really hard times. And when I went out here and I tried to submit this book to publishers, I thought I was going to make some real progress because I had a lot of agents contacting me about reading this book, and I thought this book was pretty much going to get sold. Unfortunately, I ran into another obstacle, and the book did not get sold. However, focusing on that book and focusing on getting that book to the marketplace was one of the things that really got me motivated and allowed me to keep my head up, because as long as I focused on achieving that goal that I wanted to pursue, I pretty much was not focusing on my problems, but focusing on the solution and the goal I wanted to accomplish. And that goal was getting this book published. And while I was focusing on putting that book together, I got opportunity to take a civil service test, and I took the civil service test. And the first time I took it, I failed, and it was another setback that I had to deal with. Um, it was another hard setback because I had to really save up to get this money. At this time, I was living on $60 a month, and I had to put money away to even take this exam. I had to put away money to get this bus fare to go all the way down to 14th Street, and I had next to no money in my pocket, and I was still, trying to make something happen with this civil service exam. And this was about 2007, I believe, 2006. And the thing that kept me focused again was getting the books that I wanted to publish. And at this time, I had, these three books were sitting as manuscripts in boxes in my room. And by the time I had finished writing All About Maryland here, this is the book All About Maryland that I had written. My laptop that I had bought during my AmeriCorps years, that off my the year-end award that I got, I went out and bought a laptop. What happened was that laptop died, and I was without a computer for a year, and I was using a family member's computer just to take this civil service exam yet again in late 2007. And that time I finally got like an 80 on that exam, and after a while, and then after a couple of months, I went to the first hiring pool and they didn't pick me. And the thing that kept me again motivated after all these setbacks was focusing on getting these three books published and on the market. And that's really what kept me, kept my head up, because I was going through, again, some really hard financial times and even some personal issues with my own family, because they thought that I wasn't trying, I wasn't making any efforts, and I was pushing as hard as I possibly could to get something to go. Unfortunately, I couldn't get anything to go, and I just kept pushing towards the goal that I had, which was getting those books published. I wanted to turn all those raw manuscripts into published books, and that's what kept me motivated and kept my, head up towards moving towards that goal. And I finally got a break in February of 2008 at this City College of New York. I was working in their science library, and I thought that this was going to be the big break that was going to help me, move my life ahead. I thought this was going to be the one, the job that I was going to be able to keep, because I thought it was a civil service job, it was a union job, and I thought I was going to be able to stay there. Unfortunately, I ran into a couple of brick walls at that job. I ran into this mangina who was a college professor, and I believe this dude was pretty much jealous of a guy like me because, I'm coming into this job, I'm coming in every day, I'm working hard, and this guy, when I first met him, he just had an attitude, and, when I do this, and I just did my best to just avoid this guy and this pro-black female. And I just said, I'm just going to focus on me and what I wanted to do. And in that first 90 days, I set a goal for myself to start working on publishing the books that were manuscripts in my box. And my family member had gotten a brand new computer, and she gave me her old one. And I started getting right to work as soon as I got that computer towards editing the one of the books for publication, because I set a goal for myself to get this book published within 90 days. And within 90 days of me being on that job at City College, I had published the Cassandra Cookbook, and I finally got it to the marketplace. And that was a major accomplishment for me, because I wrote this book in 2003, 2004, and pretty much it had been turned down by all these agents. Like, I got over 400 rejections on this one book. And this was a book that pretty much I believed in it. Like, this was the thing that kept me motivated, because I really believed in this story. And I said, if editors and agents are pretty much telling me that this is a good story, then I should go out to the marketplace. Unfortunately, when I took this book to the marketplace, it got some positive reviews. Unfortunately, it just didn't sell well. I think it became a victim of the sophomore curse, but I did go out here and I set this goal, and I met that goal. And I still kept trying to meet goals for myself. That's one of the things that keeps me motivated, is this goal that I have right now. And that goal that I have is to get towards the point where I have a best-selling novel. That's the goal that I have for myself. And what black men need to do is they have to understand you have to have a goal for what you want to accomplish in life. And the goal for me back in 2008, again, was getting these 3 books to the marketplace. And I was in the process of editing All About Maryland. When I was working at City College, I had already gotten a WGA Writers Guild registration for this screenplay. And I pretty much was getting ready to go into editing for that book when I ran into trouble around September 11th, 2008. Now, September 11th, 2008, I'm going in for a performance appraisal with this head librarian, this Mangina. And what he does is he says during the appraisal, he's looking for someone with a sales and a customer service background. Now, I didn't want to bicker and argue with this guy, and back then I really didn't understand what social cues were well at. But I knew that there was a red flag when he said that. And when he said that, I said to myself, this guy's looking to get rid of me, because if you're not going to sit there and say to a guy during a performance appraisal, you're looking for somebody with a different background, when you know my background. I'm a professional writer, and I'm working in a library. You would think it's a good fit, but he's saying he's looking for somebody with a sales and a customer service background. But what he didn't understand was we writers have sales and customer service backgrounds. We understand what sales is, because in order to talk to literary agents and talk to trade publishers, we have to sell books. But we don't sit there and, we're not going to go back and forth with people. And even when I was working at the front desk, circulation desk, I had exceptional customer service. A lot of the students liked me. They would look out for me, and they would look to find me because I provided very, very solid customer service. Unfortunately, it wasn't solid enough for this guy, and he wanted someone else for the position. But I look at that situation, and I trusted in God, because in October, he told me to keep going, and I decided to trust in him and keep going, and I decided to stay motivated, even after this guy accused me of sleeping on the job. And I asked myself, how can you sleep standing up when you're just looking down? I was just looking down for a second, and he tries to turn it into a write-up. And I decided, I'm going to trust in God and to keep going and keep focusing on the goals that I wanted to do. And after I lost that job on October 24th of 2008, I decided, I'm going to still go out here and still remain motivated and keep going towards the goals that I set for myself. Now, I was going to publish this book, All About Maryland, with the same print-on-demand company I used for the Cassandra Cookbook. Unfortunately, I didn't think that they could meet the formatting that I wanted for the book, because this book was a screenplay and it required special formatting. And so while I was taking PC repair classes at the Metropolitan Educational Opportunity Center, I decided I was going to learn the ins and outs of doing page layouts. And during that time, I went out here and I learned how the lightning source system worked, I learned how the distribution worked. I learned how discounts worked, and I learned how to do page layouts and cover designs. And by the end of about 2009, I was ready to launch the SJS Direct imprint, and the first book, which was part of that imprint, which was all about Maryland. Now, when I launched this book in 2009, I thought it was going to be the one that was going to, finally be the big break, because it started out very strong. A lot of readers loved this book. When I first presented it to people, people loved this story. I mean, this was loved by women all over the world, and it did perform very strongly, and it was a strong launch for the SJS Direct imprint. Um, and as I worked on that book and promoting that book, I learned about press releases and marketing and other business aspects. And that's, again, kept me motivated towards what I wanted to do, because I said I wanted to clear these books out of these manuscript boxes and get them to the marketplace. And while I was working on promoting this all about Maryland, I started working on another book, which was The Temptation of Don Haynes. Now, this book was pretty much, again, sitting in my manuscript box, and I turned this into a trade paperback. Now, I planned a different cover for this. I'd actually took some of my money and I paid a professional artist to do the cover, but unfortunately the cover wasn't very good, so I had to use this cover instead. However, I managed to get the book to the marketplace in spite of all the setbacks in 2011, and again, this is another critically acclaimed book, and it did very well, in the beginning, and it still manages to sell to this day. But all I did was I meant to get all those books to the marketplace. That's what made me keep my head up. That's what made me motivated. That's what kept me pushing in spite of all these obstacles. And I still faced a lot of obstacles even while I was publishing these books. I went out, again, I took another civil service exam for the exact same job, and I went into this CUNY civil service system for 3 years trying to look for a replacement job. Unfortunately, I learned the horrible truth about this civil service system, that the human resource departments are pretty much controlled by women, and they go out here and they hire women over black men because those women pretty much allow them to meet an affirmative action quota. That was another hard lesson I learned. And eventually, even after I spent all that money trying to get jobs in the civil service system, I just decided to move on, because I had this goal. Again, I have this goal of trying to get this best-selling book. This is the goal that I set for myself, and this is the goal that keeps me motivated in spite of all the hard times that I go through. And this is what I push so hard towards it, because this is what I see, what I want to do in life. This is the thing that I want to accomplish. And this is what will allow you, black men, to keep your head up, because you have to focus on what you want to do. You're going to face lots of obstacles in your way. You're going to face a lot of people who are naysayers. You're going to face a lot of jealous people. And this is what I had to face in my life. I had to face a lot of people getting in my way. I had to when I was when I had gotten on a radio show, Blog Talk radio show, and I was going to talk about all about Maryland. I had a family member pretty much try to sabotage me, and I couldn't do the radio show because they wanted to go start an argument with me, so I couldn't do the show. And this book, again, had people interested in it, and I couldn't take that opportunity to tell more people about this book because I had family members who were insecure and jealous, and this is something that you're going to have to deal with. But you have to focus on what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, because what you want to accomplish is going to be more important than anything else, because people are going to come and go, jobs are going to come and go, but what's going to keep your head up and what's going to keep you going towards where you want to go in life is what you want to do. And what I wanted to do, again, was I wanted to write a book ever since I was 9 years old. I wanted to have a book published, and I went out and published a book. Now my goal is to reach a larger audience of readers and have that best-selling book. And my other goal is to have a full-time job. And in this time, I have learned a lot, not just about books and publishing and PC repair and a whole host of other subjects. I've learned, a lot about business, a lot about people, and I've managed to keep my head up and motivated towards, moving towards that next level. And if this is what you want to do, you have to focus on that, because you are going to run into a whole host of obstacles. Again, a whole host of people who are going to be naysayers, a whole host of jealous people. And you have to think about what is important to you. And what was important to me was in back in those days when I had next to nothing was getting these books, these manuscripts out of the box and made into books. That was the most important thing to me when I had no money and I was literally living off $60 a month given to me by a family member. I thought about what I wanted to accomplish, what I wanted to do, and that was what kept me, literally alive during a time when I pretty much had wanted to give up on myself and look at, the situation and look at it how bleak it is. And I still look at this situation to this day. I look at how hard it is, and sometimes I wonder, how do I do things, like contacting an artist like a Bill Walko to design a wonderful cover like this one for Bride of Dracula, or this one, working with this type of artist, and even being unemployed, still managing to go out here and produce products, with no money. I look at that and I say that, that's an amazing thing. And a lot of managers and business people who sit there, and I would go to interviews and they would discount these things, and minimize it. And I say to myself, I'm showing you what I can do, and if this does not have value, then there must be something wrong with you. But when you're out here, you have to think about what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, because what you want to accomplish, that's what's going to motivate you. That's going to keep you being passionate to get up out of bed every morning, and keeps you, energized towards working, towards moving yourself ahead towards the next level. That's what you're focusing on. And a lot of guys out here, they don't do those two things, which is trusting God to help you get where you want to go, and then work towards where you want to go so you can go out here and accomplish what you want to accomplish. Because that's what you as a man need to focus on, because that's going to be the thing that keeps you, motivated every day. Even though you are going through the hardest of hard times, I'm still going through the hardest of hard times. I'm still looking for that new full-time job, but I'm still focusing on what I want to do and trying to move myself ahead towards that next level again, which is that best-selling book in out here, and that really reaches an audience and gets a lot of readers. You can pick up all my titles on Amazon.com by clicking the link in the description box. I publish a lot of positive black fiction and a lot of positive nonfiction. And I'm hoping you pick up one of these books and help me out.